Right, hi, and welcome to episode 6 of Smashing Apps. I can't believe we're still going 6 episodes in, but we've still got amazing educators to learn from, and today is no exception. I'm joined by 3 wonderful teachers, and we'll introduce ourselves one by one now, starting with Lyndsey.
Hi, I'm Lyndsey. I am a digital teaching and learning specialist for ACS International Schools here in the UK, and I'm going to pass it over to Tom.
Hi everyone, I'm Tom Konsek. I am a computing and network lead across my region in the East Midlands in Nottinghamshire, and currently working in primary schools, 2-form entry, and yeah, that's me. So over to Pedro.
Hey everyone, my name is Pedro. I'm a high school teacher here in Brazil, in the northeast of Brazil. So I teach computational thinking. I also teach creative entrepreneurship, like literal translation of it, and English for high school. And how's it going, Jacob?
Yeah, brilliant, thank you. So I'm Jacob Woolcock, and I teach computing in a primary school down in Cornwall. I teach all of Key Stage 2, and nothing's changed since last time I introduced myself. It's all the same. I'm really excited for today. All 3 people that are joining us are going to share some really exciting and interesting apps. I'm going to share one myself at the end. And I'll put some links below to follow them all on Twitter as well after the video is finished. Now, we're going to start off with Lyndsey, who's going to share an AR app with us. And you may already know of Lyndsey from the amazing content she shares on Twitter. Lyndsey is incredibly talented with AR, and she's explored and learned a huge amount about the subject, and I'm really excited for her to share her app with us all now. Hopefully that's not too much of a build-up, and we're not going to be totally disappointed, but I'm sure we're not.
So today, I'm going to be sharing about AR Makr, the app here. Okay. So when you go into AR Makr, this is what you initially come up across. And depending on which version of the iOS that you're currently using, some of the features may be available and some of them may not. These are pre-made starter kits for students to explore with. So they've got content already made by the creators of AR Makr. So they give you stuff to already go and explore. There's some new things such as a whole section about London and the UK and then Tokyo. But if you go back up to the top here, you can go to create a new scene. Now this allows you to import any of your own original content. I choose to make a lot of mine either in the app's Procreate or in Keynote. Because I find them to be the best ones to use. And so if you go in and press start, right away the camera is going to come up, and it's going to want to scan for a surface. And if you can see right there, a grid has come up. And as you keep moving around with the iPad, you can make your grid much bigger. And so then if you go outside and do this outside with really, really good lighting, as you may have seen on some of my challenges that I've done with AR, I've taken the iPad outside and I've made these really, really massive grids. And so that allows you then to make really, really big displays. So I'll go ahead and tap that there. Right away is a little target that's going to pop up, and it's going to want to put something in the AR grid. Now, as you can see, I've got tons of preloaded content from other things that I've done with AR. But if you go to New on the side, you have some options. So I'll just show you here. You have a grid, and this allows you to go ahead and start creating something straight within the app. You have some shapes down here, so you can make things with spheres, with cylinders, with cubes, or with cones, or you can work on a flat surface. So if you wanted to write something and have it appear in AR, you could write it on this screen, or you could go ahead and wrap colors or wrap images around the different shapes, and that allows you then to go ahead and place those. Have your paint tool here. If I were to go into the flat screen, I've got my color selection on the side, so I can go ahead and pick a different color. I've also got the size of the drawing tool. And so if you're going to do writing, you maybe want to try and keep it quite small. So I can go ahead and write. Okay. Now, if I were to press the check mark on the side, that's going to go ahead and allow me to have that item now saved into AR Makr. And so if I come back over to my grid, which has moved a little bit, which sometimes can happen, I can then expand or make it quite smaller. I can also place it at a height if I want to. Now, once an item is placed in your grid, whether it's up or down on the surface there, you can attach a behavior to it. So if I come back over now, you might be able to kind of see it. Whoop, sorry, fingers in the way. See that it's sitting right there.
Yeah.
I can now go ahead and attach a behavior to it, such as making it blink, making it pulse, spinning left or right, vibrating, or in orbit. And it will orbit itself around the grid. So there's that. You can also put other things straight from your camera roll. So if I were to open my folder here, this is pulling from my camera roll. You can see some of the previous things that I've worked with. I'm going to go ahead and select one of the books that I was doing for World Book Day.
Okay.
Sorry, what?
I saw your World Book Day tweets on Twitter when they came out. You were showing some amazing covers, weren't you?
So then I can go ahead and place something else in there, make it bigger, again, put it up on the wall like a virtual display. And then I can get really quite close to it. And the nice thing about this is it does cast a shadow, so it does make it look as though it is really there. And I've seen little children, most recently I was working with some first graders that got terribly excited about this, putting it there and going, oh my gosh, it's actually there, I can see the shadow, that's cool. So I found that the best thing is to plan out why you would be using AR Maker with your students. And really try to get the thought process, not just for the shock value, but why would you be using this tool for your end result? So the first graders that I've been working with, they're going to be using AR Maker as a summative assessment or summative project for their unit all about Great Britain. And so everything that they're going to be doing is sort of this augmented reality display with original content that they've created, whether it's explanations or drawings or pictures, or textbooks that picture books that they've been looking at and pictures they've found really, really interesting, and making this nice visual collage in augmented reality, and then using the iPad's built-in screen recording to then go and take whoever's the viewer on this virtual tour of everything that they've learned about the United Kingdom.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
It's a really very simple app to use. I love the fact that it is so user-friendly. The interface is very clean, very simple. And I found that all ages are really quite engaged with it. So that's AR Maker.
Fabulous. Thank you for sharing that and giving us a whistle-stop tour of what AR Maker can do. I've been using it with my Year 5s quite recently. We're doing a project all about space. So naturally, on the solar system, and they've made the planets and done like an augmented reality documentary kind of thing. But I have to admit, we didn't actually use the sphere that you showed us just then. We just had flat images. But I didn't, to be honest, know that worked. So that's amazing for me just to see it instantly. That's something that I can now use next year. And obviously you can make them animate and rotate and move around. And it's a really clever little tool, isn't it? Pedro, Tom, have you come across AR Maker? Have you been using it? What's your experience?
Yeah, I've given AR Maker a go before with science. The spheres that you can use to create the planets and then turn the lights off, and then when you're trying to demonstrate something on a bigger scale, when we've been talking about light and day, and how the planets move. I think that AR, that's Lyndsey, you were saying about, you've got to think about the why, not just the wow factor. The wow factor is great, but actually you need to think about the why. So I've used it for science. I think that's been a really good application of it. But I like your idea of geography as well, because physical orientation for kids can be quite difficult, and they can sometimes find it very difficult to place where things are. So I think for geography, actually, Lyndsey, I'll give that a go. I think that sounds really good.
I can give you a few tips and tricks just to think about if you're going to try and explore this with your students. Is number one, have the students really get all of their resources in one place first. Now, this could be either I'm going to make a Keynote file and export it and then save it as an album in my photos, and I'm going to be pulling all my content from that particular album. Because what we found is once students make their grid, if they have to then go off and take photographs and then import them, they lose their grid and they have to reset it every time.
Okay.
Which, for brand new users, it can be quite frustrating, especially if they're primary, because they want to just be able to go and why do I have to reset it? It should still be there. So that would be a really key one is that like you said, that purposefully use, Tom, and planning it out ahead of time. So if you're using Keynote or you're using another app like Sketches or something where you're going to compile all of your original content creation, is to save it into a particular album and then use that album to import everything. The second is to make sure that you have adequate lighting. And I found that actually dark surfaces work really well. So using the carpet rather than a desktop, as the grid can sometimes be quite hard to place on a lighter colored surface, whereas dark colors, grays and blacks and blues, they tend to pop the grid up very quickly and then allow it to expand quite easily. So that would be another tip as well.
That's a great tip. We've tried it on our tabletops and they're quite light, and I think they might be reflective as well, which perhaps doesn't help. But yeah, maybe moving down to the carpet's a really good way around it.
The last tip I have, and this is just based on trial and error, if you have iOS 13 and it's trying to screen mirror AR Maker within Apple TV, there can be a bit of a delay. Also, with the screen record feature of the app, I find it tends to have a bit of issue with buffering. And so I like to use the iPad's built-in screen record. And I know it ends up with the symbols on the side of the video and the camera and then the plus sign. But most of the time, you can just crop the video down and take that part out if you need to.
That's so true. We had an Apple TV and I was mirroring it to the children. It was really like juddery. And I didn't quite, that makes complete sense that perhaps the buffering's not there. So the screen recording is a great tip. Pedro, have you tried this in your school? What do the children think?
Definitely. Last year in September, in October, here in Brazil, we have the yellow September and the pink October. I don't know if there's it's a worldwide thing, but the yellow September is for depression. It's like you have to think about depression and anxiety. And pink October is about women breast cancer. So like everybody in Brazil stops to think about it and work that on school. So what I did was in both months, I used AR Maker just like you did, Lyndsey. The students wrote out sentences and they put it like on the wall of the schools, on the corridors of the school, and they were stopped in a place in the middle of the corridor, and someone from the school would come to them and say, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And the student would show the augmented reality with the sentences, and they would be like, "Wow, this is." Despite the wow factor, also the point of the activity was really nice.
Yeah, that sounds like
Sorry, one thing I can leave you with, if you work with teachers like I do, is that's part of my role specifically, is not necessarily working with students, but working with teachers and getting them comfortable with this different technology. One thing that might be really fun is to take two separate iPads and build an augmented reality obstacle course with things that they have to crawl through or go over or duck under or go through tunnels, and allow them to work in teams to try and get through the obstacle course with the iPad. I think it would be a really great hands-on experience for the teachers just to have a go. But then as a bystander to watch a teacher just sort of doing this with the iPad on the floor, would be quite fun as well. So.
That's the next staff meeting. Yeah.
Exactly.
Nice.
Lyndsey, thank you so much for sharing AR Maker. I think it's brilliant how in the last couple of years AR has become such a viable tool to use in the classroom. It went from being something that was very complex and never really worked to being something that now you can actually rely on as a tool in your tool belt. And like you said, when you actually have the tool there, you can use it for educational purposes, not just that wow factor. And it's phenomenal how quickly that's come on. And I can't wait to see what the next couple of years bring and what perhaps comes next.
It's been very interesting because I really only started experimenting with it at the end of November.
Oh, wow.
I've never used it before then. This has all just been me sort of learning on the go. And I've just become so impassioned by it now. It's my favorite thing.
The content that you're sharing, I would have thought you'd been doing it for years. It's incredible. It's really, really good.
Thank you.
Right, Tom, can we pass over to you next? Is that okay?
Yeah, so Seesaw's been around for a number of years now, and in terms of a platform that educators use to create an online learning journal to evidence work and showcase work, it's a different option than a blog. The main competitor out there with a lot of ADEs and people that are into tech is Showbie. So being aware of that, I'm going to highlight some of the features that it does have and also look at the pros and cons of investing in one or the other.
That sounds interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So the layout, the reason why it's I think so popular and it maintains its world ranking up there as well as Shobi does, because it's very easy to import students into a class. You can just create them. It didn't take me too long to create you guys as a class there. So one of the lovely features is that you can, if you want to, invite parents in to obviously to share some of the children's work. Like Shobi, it's a lovely place to keep some of your evidence of work. So that's nothing new. It's just another platform to do it. Simplicity, again, it's a very simple format. But one thing I think is a lovely feature that you get on the free app. There is an option to go pro and to go to a premium account, of course, similar to Shobi. But as a free account holder, if you've not quite got there in terms of either budgets or the reason why you need to maybe invest into a whole school license, is that because the power of so many other educators out there, you can, when you look at exploring, if I show you with assign activity, you can create your own and it will stay there, which is lovely. You can, if you're working collaboratively across year groups with another co-teacher, you can assign something from your class to another class. So if you were leading a science unit, then you could just say, hey, look, I've done the planning. There you go, ship it out. You can plan it on the fly, which is lovely. So you can do the iPad. I've often, and I shouldn't say this, I've often done some lessons in a lunchtime, and they've been cracking lessons, and you can just do it straight away because it's so easy. What a lot of educators use this for is they use it for their special educational needs. So it might not be rolled out across the whole school platform, but again, like Shobi, you can have the power of the voice notes in there. So you can, when it comes to assigning an activity, I wasn't actually physically in the room a couple of weeks ago. I was setting up something in the hall for the whole school, and it was my first lesson with these guys here. They're called my Smart Crew, the acronym to stay safe online. And I wasn't even there, but the instructions were put your headphones on. Hey guys, I'm not here today. I'm actually on my way down. I'll be there in 5 minutes, but can you do these instructions? Which is lovely, and they just crack on. It's fantastic. So I'd say one of the most powerful things is that the online community, once you create a lesson, you can then go and search across different subjects. The drawback for people in the UK, it's still quite American-y. There's lots of, in terms of grades, they don't have the year groups. It's a little bit elementary-like, but there is a really nice library of different activities that other educators have done. And I think from a collaborative point of view, I think that's really quite powerful. So another nice feature. I was going to mention the options to do a pro version, because I know when Chris Lawson came on the show before, he looked at going pro with the app when he looked at Shobi.
Yes, he did.
The licensing, when it comes to going to a premium account for Seesaw, is around about £90, so $120 US dollars, something like that, and that's per teacher for per class, basically. Now, if you've got a small primary school or elementary school, you've got to take that into consideration, because you're going up to like £540, whatever. You have to look at what's best for you, and I think I wouldn't be doing anyone any justice if I didn't say it's got all singing or dancing. I'd say there's benefits of both in terms of what you want. For me at the moment, because our school hasn't got one-to-one iPads across the whole school, and I've still got to evidence why I'm investing in this, It won't be until a few years where we get more iPads where I can say, a bit like Chris said, we can offset things like the printing costs, which is a main appeal of any time that you move any of your children's content to something online. I think it's the future, don't get me wrong. I think schools should be investing in technology like this, because you can have this not just on your iPad, but it can be on Chromebooks or Windows. So the infrastructure is there. It's simplicity in terms of you can just pop your QR code on top of the board and you can screen mirror it, and the kids can just scan. So they are one of the leaders for a reason. And I'm getting to use it quite often now. It's just a nice place for me to evidence my work with my children. We've not invited parents yet. I don't think you need to have that as an option. It depends what your school would like. We have Class Dojo for sharing and showcasing work, but I think it's a lovely app. I think there's a lot more to do, and I have to confess, Jacob, I don't have the pro version, so I can't even show you what they do with some of the data. But it's very similar in terms of doing quizzes and doing tests and pulling out that data very quickly to show. So yeah, that's Seesaw, guys.
Excellent, thank you. Don't worry at all about using the free versions. I think a lot of teachers watching this will probably not be able to say to their head teacher or their buying department that we need to buy this now. A lot of people will start out with that free version and find the value for themselves, won't they, before they take that next step. And it sounds like the free package has a lot in there that people can make use of, which is amazing. Now, I've not used Seesaw before, but you mentioned a library of resources. Can you tell me a bit more about that? Sounds interesting.
Yeah, sure. So if I just go back onto the main screen here, so this is where you'd have your class assigned, and then it's very simple. You just click Add, and then you get Assign Activity. You can, like a text message, send a group message out to individuals. I've not touched on the power of the feedback, but it's similar to Show Me. So a lot of people that might be listening, you can send the voice notes, and you can send your emojis, which I always find great. So you have your own library. I've done a few of these, from global trade to create your own Viking longhouse. If I just show you there, you get a template to show. You've got the written, and then there's an oral option as well. So you, like I said, your children could plug in their headphones, and then it will show you the expectation. Now you can take a picture. You can annotate. What is quite nice is that you can also upload from Google Drive very quickly, which a lot of schools are using when it comes to that. But the community side is here, and all these other schools and educators that are throughout the world using this, and there's a few 100,000 of them now. Actually, you can search for something across. So if we were looking at something like the moon, and I type that in, then we've got phases of the moon here, and you can search based on your year group and the type of thing you're having. And even if you don't choose to go and steal this activity, you can still edit it and use it for your own.
That's
for your own. Okay. You get to see at the bottom, there's 175 teachers that like this particular one. So you also get to see, is it a decent resource? And this in itself is a nice part of the app, because it's other educators and it's sharing planning for free, basically. So yeah, there you are.
Brilliant, thank you. So what about you two? Do you use Seesaw? Do you use Show Me? Neither? What are your kind of views on this at the moment?
Yes, I've used Seesaw in the past. With my previous school, we were in an IB school, and so we were trying to move away from the paper portfolios for documentation purposes of the students learning throughout the year to the more online digital portfolios. And we found that Seesaw was really, at the time, it was the best thing that was out there for that purpose. We had quite a big international, population of students, and then obviously parents that didn't speak English or didn't read English as their first language. And so we really like the translation feature that comes in there. So whatever you type in, whether it's a comment, if it's a description, if it's a note, if it's a message, any kind of text that you create within the app, parents have the ability to translate it to their native language. And I believe it's about, I think they've got up to 50 languages now they can translate.
Wow. Yeah, it's really impressive. The Translate tool is definitely a one to mention. That's even for schools in the UK. When you've got English as additional language, it's a very powerful way. Like Lyndsey said, there's an inbuilt translation tool for sure.
Pedro, what about you? Do you use this in Brazil? Do you have other solutions that you use?
Yeah, I work in an Apple distinguished school, so until 2018, we would use Apple for education and management. And Seesaw was one of our tools, but most of the teachers here are very conservative, so they wouldn't feed or insert the information there. So in 2019, the school started using Google for Education besides Apple's, and we kind of migrate to Google Classroom, which does basically the same, but I miss the community part of it, like the translation built into, since I'm an English teacher. I miss some features from Seesaw, but now we're using Google Classroom like as a management tool.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of tools that do obviously very similar jobs in a classroom, but I think it's really important to actually look at them individually and look at their pros and cons and pick the right for your school, because no two schools are the same and no two schools have the exact same needs. And we personally are using Shobi at the moment, but I know we're looking at Seesaw for our younger children. And it's picking and choosing, isn't it? And we're spoiled now as educators that we have so many amazing applications and programs to choose from. So I really appreciate that, Tom. It's been a really interesting look at Seesaw there.
My pleasure.
While you're here as well, I need to just mention Tom's podcast, because Tom's podcast is absolutely brilliant. Am I right in saying it's the Teacher TLC Toolkit?
Yeah, that's right. So hashtag Teacher TLC podcast. Yeah, that's what we. It's a very humble podcast, but you were in there. We've been talking about bringing a bit of fun and excitement to educators. I've got a best friend of mine who very selfishly decided to leave me and go and work internationally in Malaysia. So we catch up every couple of weeks and we compare the pros and cons of living out abroad, and it's wonderful to catch up there. But the main driver behind that is trying to share really good practice and to keep people motivated. And I think as ADEs, and I think just as educators interested in tech, it gives you a really nice platform to find something that's exciting, to do a staff meeting where you're doing your AR that's going up and down. And that little bit of spice, that little bit of passion can really help to motivate other teachers, whether they're a bit too conservative, like Pedro said, but eventually you'll get them. And if you keep giving that excitement, that passion, and I think you will bring them, because we're going to the future. We're very lucky, I think, because we are all looking at the future. We're looking at all these different wonderful apps and things like that. So every time we showcase what we're passionate about, it's really helpful when one of my main concerns is that we have a lot of teachers that leave our profession. We've got a lot of educators that just get burnt out and they don't get the right support. They don't look at the community side of it as much. They feel very isolated. And I really, really get upset with that. And part of the reason why I looked at Seesaw is because what I wanted to reduce the workload of my staff who were taking books home and marking, where we've got things like Shobi, we've got things like Seesaw, and you can just go, bosh, just look at this. You can just say it. You can just put in an emoji of a dancing disco man, and the kids are going to pick it up and they will respond to it. And you've got to ask yourself the why. Why are you marking it in the first place? And who's it for? And I think we all know this, but you got to use tech. You've got to use tech to stay motivated, I think.
I think that's such a powerful point, isn't it? Tech is there to help us, not to make things more hard. And that's a perfect example of how it can make a really tricky job so much easier and more meaningful at the same time. So, yeah, definitely check out the podcast. It's full of some great well-being tips and motivational stories just like that one. So thank you for that, Tom.
Thank you. Cheers, Jacob. Thank you.
Right, okay, so we'll pass over to Pedro now. Now, if you haven't already done this, I think you need to pause your video and go onto Pedro's YouTube channel. There's a link below, because Pedro made a 1-minute reflection video of his last year, as an ADE, and quite honestly, it's amazing. It's got like a Hollywood production value and the filters, and it is just like the most casual walk down the seafront. It's beautiful. It's a lovely video. So go and check that out before you watch the next section, because I'm hoping that Pedro is going to talk a little bit about how he makes his videos look so incredible with his VideoLeap app.
So let's do it, right? So I use this app, like the VideoLeap app, for mainly three things: to edit my vlogs, to edit like my online classes, which I leave in which I upload to Google Drive and to give it to my students, and also I give some tech tips, right? So this is VideoLeap, right?
Okay.
It's developed by Enlight, and they have like many other apps, really great for editing photos and create some motion graphics. It's really nice. So I'm gonna talk about this one.
Okay.
I'm gonna use the Zoom thing, like the Zoom tool. So when it's screen recording is nice to point where I'm
Oh, look at
trying.
that.
Nice.
It's nice. So it's good when you're screen mirroring your iPad. You can use the Zoom, the built-in thing, so the kids can follow where you're pointing. It's really nice. So I'm gonna open up my library here. I have many videos edited. The light here is not nice. So I have many videos here. So I'm gonna show you guys one of my vlogs. I'm gonna open up. So when you open up, they give you like many things that you can add. Like you can work with text. They have many different kinds of texts, stickers, which I think is really nice. Differently from iMovies, you have to go online, get your GIFs. I don't know how to pronounce it, but here you can go straight up to like a building tool, and they already have like many GIFs, and you can search for your GIFs or GIFs and put it in like if you want to create a video with a meme, you just search for it and add to your video right into. It's really practical. You can work with audio. They have soundtracks. They have sound effects. Let me open up. They have. This is a free version. You can also have the premium version. In the free version, you cannot have the story blocks things, the story block sound effects. You have to pay for it. But the sound effects in the app, you have like action sound effects, like assault rifle, a glass shatter, slap. So you can make those funny videos with sound effects. It's really nice, just like iMovies. What else? Oh, filters. I also like to do on my videos color correction and color grading. Color correction is when you balance the white, and color grading is when you give those cinematic looks. And here you can, yeah. So in here you can work with color correction. You can work with, you can fix the brightness. You can fix the contrast, the hue, the tint, and you can add these filters to work with color correction, which is really great to create this cinematic look. If I turn it off, it comes back to a normal video that I shot on this iPad. The camera of the iPad Pro is really nice, really great. And when I turn it on, it looks like a movie. This is the vlog from my AD trip. So yeah, what else? You can adjust sound and some other features, but it's in the Pro version. And you can add effects, which is great. Like where is it? Oh, the prism effect. It gives this, I don't know how to say it. It's a prism effect. I use it mostly when I'm trying to pretend I am an animal. Like I shot, like I pretend I am in the vision of an animal or insect. They're flying over flowers or something, and I add this effect so it seems like I'm flying or something, or running like a dog or a cat, which is really nice. And they have some glitches, the glitches effect, like if you wanna make some matrix. Oh yeah, another another feature there, another thing that I like is you can add layers. Like you can have many layers, but it's a free version. I think you can only have 4 layers, but if you have the premium pro version, you can have as many as you want. So 4 layers is enough to do my videos. I really like, and they have a tone lab. I never use it. I don't know exactly what it is, so I'm gonna leave it. So I'm just gonna talk about. Yeah, another thing that I like when I'm uh, making videos for Instagram, for example, like a vertical video. I don't know if I have it here. No, I don't. I use it mainly on my iPhone. So when I have a vertical video, I can go to Canvas and adjust the aspect ratio of the video. Like if I want to make it like a 16:9, the cinematic version, or a 9:16, the vertical one. So I can just press it and it becomes vertical right away. I don't think that's possible on iMovie, so I think this is a nice feature, you know. So my AD video, I edited here, just the cuts, I just cut it here, but the effects of the things that Tom said it, I did it on a post production with After Effects. So it was a really like I scanned the thing, was a more pro thing. I added on the MacBook. So yeah, I edited unboxing video for the iPad 7th generation and compare it to the iPad Pro, and I can add audio from the GarageBand. I can have the GarageBand open and VideoLeap as a uh, app. I don't know, a slide over, right? Slide over. So I open, for example, Live Loops, and I can score my video. I think that's the expression. So I can start playing the video on VideoLeap and start scoring my video on GarageBand. So it's really nice. And then I export it to the VideoLeap, and yeah, my video is scored, and I can just upload it. Kids go crazy. I usually do I usually do review of my students' production if they create a music on GarageBand, if they draw something or write something. I tell them, don't show me yet. I'm gonna make a reaction video of your production, and I edit on the VideoLeap because I can have the layers. So I have the the first layer, which is their production, and another video on another layer, which is my video that I record myself, so I can have a very fast video. Can I use my iPhone, like screen record my iPhone to show it? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Something that I like to do, like to edit my on-the-go videos to post it on my social media, especially on Instagram. I have a setup video for the school I work in, so I just change the video below in the first layer, like all the rest, like the text and the music, it's already set. I just need to add the video in the first layer. You know, I just can duplicate the project and add another video, so it's really fast. I just need to change the text because on Instagram it's nice to have like a subtitle, even if it's in the same language. It's nice to have it, and that's it. It's basically what I like on this app.
Brilliant. So it seems very much like the next step on perhaps an iMovie in terms of the flexibility and the different features that are involved. I'm thinking about the layers in particular. I know in iMovie you can have a couple of layers, but beyond that, it's not really possible, is it? But on this, it sounds like you can really go beyond what you could do perhaps with the built-in tools.
Yeah. On iMovies, I feel they need to add the aspect ratio adjustment, which is gonna be really nice. And when you add the green screen, I think is the only layer you can add besides like an extra video. I think it is on the iPad. The iMovies for iPad.
In picture layer, can't you? But no more than that potentially.
Yeah, that's it.
So Tom, have you come across VideoLeap before? What do you think about using this in your classroom?
No, I'm super excited. I've never seen it before, and I've been relying on Apple Clips and iMovie and combining the two. So if you want to get those extra effects and those animations on one of the layers, yeah, I've done that in Clips, and then I've gone and exported it, and then done it through iMovie. So I'm looking forward to this one because it looks like it's upped its game a little bit, and as you were talking through the walkthrough there, Pedro, I've downloaded it, so I'm gonna be super nerdy and just go play around, and I look forward to that. So thank you. That's awesome. I don't know. I've not used it before, but Lyndsey might have.
Well, Lyndsey, I'm thinking of your AR videos. This could perhaps be a way of making them even more exciting.
Well, I'm thinking now if there was a way of, I love the idea of you using that filter to portray as if you are an animal or an insect or something.
Yeah.
And seeing how I could do that with AR, of filming from the perspective of a particular type of animal or a bird or something like that, and then layering that, I think you said it was a prism effect over the top of it.
Yeah.
One thing I want to know is, how do you find the app for primary or early childhood age children? Is the interface quite simple, or do you find it to be quite complex and might need more teacher help?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be quite complex for early learners. I use them for my online classes, like my online classes, and for high school students, they just open up and use it just like us. So I used to use clips in iMovies, just like Tom, combining them for elementary a couple of years ago, it worked really nice. But since I started teaching high school, they want something more, I don't know, detailed, since they're older, so they like when they use VideoLeap because of the effects. So it's all in, especially the GIFs section where you can add memes. They like to make those videos with memes and GIFs or GIFs. Anyway,
Yeah.
I really think for early learners, Clips works really, really well.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know I'm going to download that in a second and give it a try myself. So thank you so much, Pedro. That's brilliant.
Yes,
well,
awesome.
to round out this episode, I'm going to show an app that I've been using a lot in my classroom. Now, before we start, I'm going to just mention a little disclaimer that Sphero have actually very, very, very kindly sent me this little guy, which is a Sphero rover, so that when I talk about the Sphero EDU app, I can also mention that as well as the normal Spheros, which we use, which are these little guys. So I'm going to mention that very briefly. I'm also going to mention before we start that unfortunately, this one has broken slightly, a little bit, and it makes a clicking noise when it's driving. But there is a replacement on the way, but it didn't quite make it in time for the video. So please ignore the clicking noise, and hopefully it'll be fine. Another thing before I start this is I was very excited to share some Sphero stuff, and then this morning I saw on Twitter that actually Pedro here has become a Sphero hero. So he is probably going to know a lot more about this than I am. So Pedro, feel free to interrupt me and tell me to stop talking at any point. That will be fine by me.
All right. But I think you're going to be great. Don't worry.
This is a really good app, and obviously it connects to all the different Sphero hardware products, but it also has a nice coding interface built in as well. So along the bottom of the screen, we've got 4 tabs. For the youngest children, when we start using the Sparks, the first thing we do is jump onto Drive, connect to a robot, and just drive it around the floor going mad. I found that giving the children perhaps half an hour just to get that out of their systems before we start is a really effective way of making the following lessons much more meaningful, because all the children want to do is make that go flying across the room as quickly as possible. And if you don't let them have that chance, I find it kind of hinders what's happening next, because all they want to do is play. So we give them half an hour and say, right, just have at it, do what you will, and have fun with them. And then we're going to start using it for more educational reasons. So I'm not going to show you the driving function now, but what I am going to do very briefly is show you some of the built-in resources in the Sphero app. So this is a whole kind of area that I hadn't really explored a huge amount up until this year when I was speaking to Martin Willis in the Applet event. And Martin Willis is a Sphero hero, and he submitted some lesson plans to the Sphero app as well. Now, if we go at the bottom onto activities, at the top there are Sphero activities and community activities. Jumping onto the Sphero ones will let you then filter by what hardware you have. So if I'm looking at the rover here, I could jump on to Sphero rover, And then it will show me some built-in lessons that Sphero have made, which you can use in your class. So they add more quite regularly. But at the moment, if I jump onto one perhaps about the colour sensor on the rover, what you will get is the option then to kind of use this with your whole class. So we've been starting off with our Sparks, and we've been following a set of lessons all about the Egyptians. So for the last couple of weeks, we've been doing hieroglyphics, we've been mapping out the River Nile and racing along it, and we've been bringing history to life by using robots. But what I'm going to show you very quickly now, and where I've got a limited time, is how the actual lessons that are built into the Sphero app can help us as teachers deliver more exciting lessons to children. So I think it's fair to say that when I first got these ones in my class about a year and a half ago, I went through this phase of, this is great, let's do racing, let's do bowling, let's do robot wars, oh, hang on, what else can I do? And it got to the point where I thought, well, they'll go back on the shelf till next year. But then when Martin showed me all the amazing things in there, suddenly it opens your mind to so many more exciting possibilities. So going back to this app here, if I go on to continue, it will then open up the instructions on the left-hand side of my screen. And I can then follow that along as a teacher, or I can assign it to the children and they can follow it along step by step. And it's very, very simple to work through. You can mark it as complete, and it will show you progress at the top of your screen, which is quite cool. And then you can get instructions and inspiration on what to do. Now, the instructions, it doesn't give you a screenshot saying you need these 3 blocks in this order, because that's just kind of copying. But what it does do is it talks you through what you need and why you need it, and the children can then work out from there what they want to do. It also allows a lot of room to kind of get more or less complex as you see fit. So I was following this one through earlier, and I've made a short bit of code here which uses the colour sensor on the Sphero rover. Now, what I'm going to try and do is flip my camera and show you my desk, where I've laid out a kind of obstacle course type thing. Bearing in mind it's a small desk and the rover goes very, very quickly, I'm going to be running it on very low speed. So it can do a lot more than this. So I'm going to flip my camera now and show you my desk, which is here, and I'm hopefully going to show you how the colour sensor works on the rover. So underneath the rover, we've got a few different sensors, but this one here is your colour sensor. And what that will do, when it goes across one of these coloured squares, or indeed any colour that you have, it will recognise that, and you can then use that in your coding. So that's really exciting, and it opens up possibilities to your children. So my code here, at the moment, has something that happens when it reaches the colour blue and the colour red. But my first square is yellow. So what I'm going to do is I'm very, very quickly going to build in a bit of code that will make the light turn yellow when it hits the yellow square. So I'm going to reach my on colour block, and at the moment the colour is white. If I tap in that square, and I'm going to choose set colour, and I'm going to set it to that yellow. I'm also going to just check that the blue one is the same colour it was earlier, in case the lighting's changed, and the red one. So it's reading those colours in real time, which then means that when it reaches them, hopefully it can do different actions. So at the moment, when it reaches yellow, nothing's going to happen. So what I want to do really is, first of all, make it light up yellow, because that makes sense. Then why don't we have a weird robot voice saying yellow? Because why wouldn't you want to do that? And then perhaps we'll get it moving forwards. Again, very slowly, because my table is quite small. And we'll do that for just half a second. So now, hopefully, when I run my program, the little robot's going to go to here, say yellow, change colour, go to here, say blue, and then stop when it gets to red, rather than smashing into my wall beyond. We'll see how well it works. Okay, let's give it a go. Yellow. Yellow.
Nice.
So that's not bad. I think perhaps if I was working with the children, I would get them to refine the code and perhaps have it pausing before it moves on to the next colour. But you get the idea there of how we can actually use the colour sensor and that rover. Much better. Yellow, blue, and red. So I'm going to bring you back down to Earth and flip the camera back around again. There we go. Oh, hello. That's very high up. There we go. So that's a really, really quick look at the Sphero EDU app itself. Again, the amount of lessons that are built in there are phenomenal. I'm going to just show you one more thing while I'm here, because I think it'd be nice to. Okay. When you're searching for lessons, if you stop that filter, you can actually search for topics and keywords. So we're doing Egyptians at the moment. If you search for Egypt, you'll actually get built-in Egyptian lesson plans.
That's nice.
You get 3 if you search for Egypt, 5 if you search for Egyptian. So I'm not quite sure what the keywords are doing there. But when you go onto them, you can actually learn a bit about the Egyptians while you're doing your coding. So for the children, it makes that really, really good fun. And again, you can view the steps, you can follow along with it, you can assign it to the children. And if you go away and come back to it, it will actually be there in your workbook as an in-progress activity, which means that you can not have to finish it in one lesson. So that's a very quick look at Sphero EDU, the app, and the rover. Now, I said the rover is slightly damaged and slightly clicky. There is a replacement coming, and when that comes, I'm going to do a full review video for YouTube as well to kind of show you what that's like. I have been using the broken one with my class, and they've loved it, even though it is a bit broken. And I'm really excited to share those thoughts in a kind of a long-form video, perhaps in a few weeks' time. So keep an eye out for that if you're watching the Smashing Apps episode now. But yeah, that is, in a nutshell, Sphero EDU, the rover, and the little spark.
That's great. That's really awesome. I've never seen the rover before in action, just like that. I am mind blown, and definitely gonna ask the principals to try to get it to my school. It's really awesome. Really awesome.
Action before, let me just show you very briefly what it can do. If I unclip you from here, this is going a bit off my plan now.
He's going to stand on it.
Onto the driving feature. I'm not screen recording this, but that's fine. And let's just see. Hang on.
We'll
put the floor. That is more sensible.
That's been really broken.
That's fast. That is fast.
That's on about half speed. It is absolutely obscenely fast.
That is awesome.
Definitely.
How much is one of those?
So they retail for $260, but I believe if you're a school, you can get 5 for $1,000. So not the cheapest gadget in the world, but if you think that a Spark Plus was about 90 when it came out, so for the price of 2 of those, you could get those kind of things. So it's definitely not a cheap solution, but there is a lot of flexibility in there. One thing that I haven't tried yet, but I'm going to before the full review, is actually you can connect other equipment to it. So you can put a Raspberry Pi on there, you can put a microbit on there, and you can control it through those apps instead. So it comes with a expansion plate. So on the top of it here, if I pull that off, it's very cool inside. This plate here can actually be replaced by one with loads of holes and screw holes in it. So you can then mount other hardware on top of it while it's working. So I'm looking forward to trying that and experimenting a little bit, because I think there's a huge amount of potential with what you could do with this in a classroom.
I think there is. And
you need a drone on it now. You need to attach a drone on it.
Oh!
Places.
Make that one fly you.
Well, we use drones. We've been using drones for a couple of years, which I think is pretty awesome. But what we had a couple of weeks ago, we had a woman come in to visit us from an agricultural society. And there's not many jobs. There's a decline basically in the food industry. Now, when you look at things like that, Jacob, it just, for me, it sparks that light, which is showing that there's so much technology that actually the children that we're educating, whether it's at primary or secondary, need to be aware of, because actually there is a lot of industries at the moment that are going to be using things like that. And how can we as educators get our foot to the floor? And when I saw you doing it, doing your demo there, and it was stopping going from different colours, you know, from what I would do as an educator, I'd link that back to my class, and I would say, well, how could a larger robot do that in fields and in crops and things like that? So there is lots of learning in scope, and I think as an educator, it's not just about something that looks fancy and you can do loads of things like racing with it. It's actually about the next generation. What's the impact going to be?
Absolutely. And I think there's so much room to build on it and to explore those possibilities, like you say. I mean, we can imagine, you know, robots that go along diffusing bombs and stuff, and it would probably look very much like this, and the children can then think, okay, how would I write code to do that? They could think about, you know, what future uses will this have? And I think it's so exciting and scary, actually, that the children we're teaching are growing up into a world where we have no idea what's coming. We have no idea what it's going to be like when they're our age. Are they going to be computer still? Is it going to be in your glasses? Is it going to be in your mind? It's so hard to predict, isn't it? And I think things like this that get the children excited about technology and excited about computing and coding, I think they're the next step forward for these children to kind of get them interested at that early age, and hopefully to sustain that interest as they get older.
Yeah. Here in the school I work in, they use B-bots for very young children, and from the first year on, we use Spheros, like the balls one, the little balls.
Yeah.
And they work really nice. They all loved it. Just like Tom said, we don't only use for like competition and running and battles. We try to bring meaning. And in high school, the physics teacher is using it to teach velocity, speed, and acceleration. Because when you are in the program section, when you can you link your Sphero again with the app, like the Sphero, so we can show it. Because there's a section, the ball. I forgot. Yeah. Because in the app, when you put it to move using program or the joystick, the drive mode, when you do it, it shows the velocity, so you can work like so if the spheres go from this point to this point with this speed, what's the time? So we can work with that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's really nice. So it's alright, man. It's all good.
I think this one's a demo Sphero that is not charged.
Maybe it's not charged, right?
Yeah, maybe he broke that one.
So it shows the in the app, it shows the graphs. It shows if it's the impact graph, the force on it. So it's really great.
We've been using year 3s to do hieroglyphics. So they've been using the draw tool to draw hieroglyphics that they found online to spell a word, and then they've been screenshotting the graph afterwards, and they thought to themselves, hang on, why is that sliding all over the place? Oh, there's not enough friction. We'll try it on the carpet. And they've been thinking about what speed works best. They had to use not necessarily coding, but analytical thinking to make those hieroglyphics. And I think a really clever thing about, especially these ones, the ones that perhaps are a bit more affordable for schools, is that they can work at any age, and they can start off with the youngest children and go right through to the oldest ones, and you can increase the complexity as they go. So rather than becoming a novelty, it becomes a tool they're used to using, but they're just using it in new and interesting ways as they get older. And I think that's a really good feature about these, that they're simple enough, and even the Rover as well, it's simple enough just to get started, but it has so much room to grow as the children grow as well.
I wonder if anyone has done any kind of sort of PE challenges with Sphero, where you have to race against the Sphero through an obstacle course. So you'd have to code the Sphero, go to the different places and speed up or slow down, but then have a student race against it.
That's a great idea.
Brilliant.
I think we can try that. Maybe that's my challenge for the 4 of us, is to try and do that. AR obstacle course as well, Lyndsey.
Yeah, there you go, exactly.
Well, I tell you what, let's wrap it up here. Can I just say genuinely thank you, all 3 of you, so much for having the time to do this today. I know that we're all super busy as teachers, and just as general people, we're super busy. And I'm really grateful that you managed to find some time today to sit down and have this conversation with me. I find it really inspiring to actually get a chance to speak to people who are doing incredible things in different classrooms around the world. No 2 schools are the same, and no 2 classrooms are the same. And without communication and those links, we don't know what people are doing. And I think my favourite thing about Smashing Apps is that we're able to actually dive into different classrooms with different teachers and just get a little glimpse of what's going on. And I'm sure you're all doing so many more things than just the app you mentioned today. And I would love to have time to talk about all of these things. But this is a great starting point. So, Lyndsey, thank you for sharing AR Maker. I think it's fascinating how it's come on so quickly and how it's become a tool which children just pick up and start using immediately. There's no learning curve. It's just magic, and it works. It works so well. And because there's no learning curve, it gets to the point where you can actually start using it for really incredible educational benefits straight away. It's all about that why, not, oh, this is cool, isn't it? It's why are we doing this? And that's becoming such a powerful thing. Tom, thank you for sharing Seesaw with us as well. I know you mentioned Shobi in the last episode, but I feel like Seesaw stands alone as an excellent product in its own right. I love the community aspect that you shared. I really enjoyed the fact that teachers can share lessons and activities, and you can then dive in, edit them, and assign them to your children as well. It's one of those time-saving tips that you mentioned on your podcast, where actually we don't all have to reinvent the wheel for every single lesson. We can be working together collaboratively, and I think that's a great example of that. And Pedro, thank you for showing this VideoLeap. I think it's really fascinating to see that next step beyond from iMovie and from Clips. And I can see how all these apps can work together really nicely, how you can import video from one into another, how you can import AR video into it as well. And it's really exciting to think that, you know, the possibilities are endless with these sort of creation tools. And when the children get creating things, they don't want to stop. And sometimes they think, well, I can't do that in this program. What can I use? And VideoLeap perhaps is the answer to that question. So thank you, all three of you. It's been a real pleasure speaking to you all, and I hope to see you all very, very soon in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. And don't forget to subscribe and like this video, everyone.
I'm glad someone said that. Subscribe, like, comment, all those things.
Donate.
It does actually help, though, so that'd be amazing if you did.
Thank you, Jacob.
Oh, yeah, thank you.